So after 2 months of this entire correction here playing out for Bitcoin, we've finally seen Bitcoin actually break out into a new all-time high in the last 24 hours. And now for me personally, this is the most exciting time in the market when all the correcting's done. Talking about ABC corrections is no longer needed. Talking about the move up and how that's going to play out is no longer needed. Now we're in those expansion phases of the market where we can simply just watch price go up, catch any pullbacks that are necessary, and start to reap the reward from all of the hard work we did down in the lows here. And as exciting as this is for Bitcoin, seeing it break out into the new all-time high, I think everyone that watches this channel knows that the most exciting part about actually seeing Bitcoin break out into a new all-time high here is the fact that this is the perfect environment for XRP to actually break out and expand. And we're going to jump into this today on our recap video on how XRP has finally made it back to the top of this range, what to expect next, and how everything that's playing out here is very similar to the way XRP actually played out in November of last year, and that on higher timeframes here, we are setting up for a very similar move to the way things performed down in these lows down here. And I think what's next to come is this exciting zone. So let's jump into this today and have a look at what we're seeing on the charts. So just to touch on Bitcoin really quick here, yeah, we have broken out into a new all-time high for Bitcoin, and that is super exciting. And it's showing us everything that we need to see for altcoins to actually start to run in moments like this. And if we have a look at our right side here, which is our example that we've been referencing for the last 2 months when we spoke about Bitcoin going into the ABC correction, working its way back to the top side, and then eventually breaking out for the highs. And you can see that we are roughly in this zone now where Bitcoin has shot out aggressively, broken out into new all-time highs, and we are moving along quite swimmingly. And what I wanted to actually touch on here by having a look at Bitcoin is that if we actually go back here and overlay XRP in the red here over the Bitcoin price chart, what you can see is that when we go back to November of last year, when things actually got exciting for XRP and we started to see price go parabolic, that once Bitcoin here had actually broken out from this ABC correction, that this was the moment when XRP actually started to pick up and accelerate. And what you can see is if we overlay these two and start to zoom in and actually have a look at when was that pivotal moment that XRP actually broke out, started to decouple from Bitcoin, and we started to see a lot of price expansion. It was once Bitcoin had actually done the majority of its run here and broken to the upside. As you can see, XRP down here in the bottom side, I'll make it a bit bigger so you can see. By the time the lows had come in for XRP and it actually started to move to the upside here and reach the top of this range, which it was at now, it was well and truly once Bitcoin was out into a new all-time high and actually grinding to the upside. And what you can see here is that even while Bitcoin was out into a new all-time high and moving sideways but gradually going up, XRP was quite stagnant in this area, but it did make it back to the top of its range highs, which is where we pulled this example here from XRP saying that we're finding similarities, like on the right side, how XRP performed in October and November before it eventually took off, and that this purple box here was the top of XRP's range high, and that eventually once it did break through there, back test, consolidate for a while, that eventually this was the indication that the bottom was in, XRP had broken from all of its ranges, and that the bull run for XRP had officially begun. And that if we have a look at the left side here on the way that price is performing today, we are seeing a lot of similarities here on the left side, and that now after this aggressive move that we've seen on Bitcoin breaking to the new all-time high, we are starting to see XRP actually rally back to the top of this zone here, similar to the way it did back in November last year, which was this area here, as you can see in red on XRP, which is when it made it back to the zone once Bitcoin had broken out into a new all-time high. Now, the reason all of this is important is because once Bitcoin actually breaks out into a new all-time high and you see Bitcoin start to go crazy and parabolic, these are the only market conditions when you'll see XRP perform in a similar way. Now, if we come onto a higher time frame here, what you'll notice is that once XRP actually goes parabolic in this move and breaks out, Bitcoin is well and truly already way out of its consolidation zone and starting to actually stall out. And this stall out period here for Bitcoin is when we actually seen the biggest percentage returns and outperformance on XRP. And the fact that we're seeing all of this play out again today with similar market structure confirms my belief that we are starting to see the same thing play out for XRP here, which is essentially when XRP actually clears the top of its range and the top of the start of this A wave here and the top of the fifth wave, which would be around this $2.65 area on today's price chart. And what we see is that once XRP actually clears this zone, there is one small pullback before things really just go up and up and up. And sure, there are other moments when you can enter XRP and get in if you're not currently allocated or you're looking to add more. However, this consolidation that happens here is the first consolidation that actually happens for XRP once Bitcoin has broken out into a new all-time high. And if you're wondering why that's important and that matters, it's because when you want to see XRP actually move to the upside and expand, you want to see the S&P 500, the stock market, actually breaking out, moving to the upside. You want to see the NASDAQ actually breaking out, moving to the upside. You want to see the Dow Jones in similar market conditions, and you want to see the dollar breaking down. And we are seeing all of these indicators pop at the same time. And now we've seen our final indicator, which was for Bitcoin to actually break out into a new all-time high. And most importantly, while we're seeing Bitcoin actually break into a new all-time high, we're seeing the Bitcoin dominance actually break down, which means that the altcoin market is actually outperforming Bitcoin right now, even though we're seeing Bitcoin break out into new all-time highs, which further confirms my belief that we should start to see a very similar rally like in November and December of last year, where XRP actually outperformed Bitcoin and went crazy. Like as you can see in the red here, it just went up and up and up, and the returns were absolutely incredible compared to Bitcoin. And that all of this really occurred once Bitcoin had actually stalled out and come close to putting in its top. Like you can see here on the 2nd of December, most of XRP's run had actually concluded by that point, and that the day things really got exciting and started for XRP was this zone here, which is once Bitcoin had actually broken out into a new all-time high and started consolidating, which was the 7th of November. So from the 7th of November until roughly the 3rd of December, which is just less than 1 month, is when you've seen all of this price action in the red here actually play out on XRP. And at the very final time to actually load up on XRP and take your long positions was in this area right here, where XRP actually pulls back out of breaking out of its range, which we are fast approaching right now on XRP's price chart. And if you're new to this channel, this isn't a new concept here that we've been discussing. As you can see, back on the 23rd of June, which was just over 2 weeks ago, I actually went out, made an X account just so I could make the call public here and say that the 98K bottom that we had on Bitcoin and the $1.90 bottom that we had on XRP was most likely the bottom, and that all of this happened right here on the 23rd of June, which was when we had that crisis in the Middle East, and everyone was talking about oil prices going up and the economy going into a recession and inflation. And all that was the final flush that we've seen in our sea leg. And from that date on, it has been up only for Bitcoin here and the rest of the cryptocurrency market. So there aren't much new developments to touch on here, except for the fact that Bitcoin has broken out, and at the same time we're seeing the Bitcoin dominance come down, which is exactly what you want to see in an environment where you can see the altcoins start to run. And in earlier videos we touched on the fact that the stock market is still in all-time highs and that the dollar is down, the NASDAQ is up. We're seeing everything that you'd want to see in an environment where XRP can actually expand and go for that push to $8 to $10, and that what just happened in the last 24 hours with Bitcoin actually breaking out into a new all-time high was the final confirmation for myself personally, where I'm like, okay, this is 100% happening now. There is no doubt in my mind. We have all the signs of a breakout and an expansion coming, and those signs are the stock market in a new all-time high, the M2 money supply pointing to $150,000 Bitcoin, the rates that have been paused. We see Bitcoin dominance actually breaking down. We have news of the big beautiful bill and how that's going to stimulate the economy. We have tariffs actually being extended and pushed back from the 9th of July deadline to early August now. We've seen end of the wars in the Middle East. And now we see Bitcoin, which is out into a new all-time high while the Bitcoin dominance is actually coming down. So there couldn't be a better environment to actually see an altcoin season, and to see coins like XRP go on and complete those full extensions after a mid-cycle correction, which if you're a regular viewer here on the channel, you'll know that that is that $9 to $10 region, potentially even poke a little higher. Maybe you even see wicks over $10 and $11. However, the main focus of this video is that we are in those perfect market conditions right now where we should start to see all of this. There isn't anything else in my mind that I need to see flash or any more indicators or signals that I need confirmation from to confirm that this is happening. We basically have the perfect economic conditions here for an expansion and for a move here on XRP, which I do believe will resemble the move that played out here in November until early December, where we've seen XRP's price shoot up just shy of 500% over the course of less than 1 month. And just to further confirm my belief in all of that, we are seeing very similar price structure in the way that XRP actually bottomed back in October and November of last year before it eventually did shoot to the upside, and that right now we are likely entering this zone right here on current XRP price, and that over the weekend we should stall out potentially see another move to the upside. However, this zone here and the importance of it is that this is the first pullback, if you want to call it a pullback, or consolidation zone once Bitcoin has actually broken out into a new all-time high. And this will be where we actually start to scale into our XRP long trade. And just a little sneak peek here for people that have watched Tuesday's XRP video, we already have started scaling into this trade. And we did say once XRP price was to get above $2.30, I was going to enter a full position and scale in 85,000 XRP into this trade. However, we have just started with a mere 5,000 XRP, and that right now what we're looking for is that consolidation to happen over the weekend. But most importantly, I actually want to see XRP shoot to the upside, clear this zone here, clear the top of this A wave at $2.65, and then I want to see consolidation similar to the way things played out on the right side. And that if we can see something like that play out over the weekend moving forward, this will be the zone where I continue to scale in the rest of my XRP for the trade here. Now there is just one more thing I wanted to touch on here, and it is the XRP against Bitcoin price chart. And what you can see is that after 2 months of consolidation, when Bitcoin went in for that ABC correction, XRP essentially sat in this range. A few times it broke to the downside and underperformed against Bitcoin, but now, as we've seen Bitcoin break out into a new all-time high, we've also seen XRP outperform Bitcoin, break out of this range, and now I believe what we should start to see here is similarities to the way things played out back in November last year, where once XRP did break to the upside of this range, yeah, there was a back test here, and maybe that plays out over the weekend, but what you can see here is that this is just straight and pure XRP outperformance over Bitcoin. And I think this is what we are going into next for XRP, and we should start to see a move like this. And right now we are still right there at that start point where XRP has just broken out of the range. And you can see this quite clearly when we have a look at how the XRP Bitcoin chart is playing out in today's price action, once seeing Bitcoin actually break out into a new all-time high. So all is good. We're seeing everything we want to see. Super happy with the way things are playing out. And honestly, one of the hardest things about trading is actually just getting through these corrective zones where we simply just wait months for price to correct. And that once price has corrected and we break out, it's simply just a matter of having positioned at the right time, like back when we made that $98,000 call back on the 23rd of June. And that moments like that back in this time zone is when I actually took the majority of my positions. And now in these crazy zones when price simply just goes up, like we can see on the right side here, there isn't a whole lot to do. You simply just sit back, wait, and that all those days where you turned up when nothing really happened in the charts and things just went sideways and it was really boring, eventually starts to pay off in moments like these. And that one thing that you want to remember in a moment like this is that what you can see here on the right side is that once Bitcoin had actually broken out into a new all-time high, from the time it was basically done, it was 40 days. So it's essentially 30 to 40 days of just excitement here, and that most of what will actually happen for XRP, in my opinion, will only be the first 30 days of this Bitcoin move, and then I think it'll all be over. And yesterday the timer started, essentially, in my opinion, and there are potentially 30 to 60 days left in this cycle. So until next week, guys, enjoy your weekend. Try not to feel too much FOMO here. We really haven't seen anything of this move yet. Don't feel like you've missed out on anything. We haven't even seen XRP break out from this range yet that it's been in for the last 3 to 4 months here, and that once things actually break out from this range is when things get exciting and crazy. We still have a 2 on the front of the XRP price. So I wouldn't be feeling any FOMO right now. If you've been here and you're paying attention and you're a bit more of a conservative trader like myself, the confirmation you want to see is what we touched on earlier in this video with XRP consolidating in this zone. So if you're new here, feel free to subscribe on the channel, leave a like, it helps a lot. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them down below in the comments section. And I hope you guys are as excited as I am for what comes next, as this is the craziest time in the market when we truly enter that no sleep season, and these next 30 days are going to change a lot of people's lives. So I hope everyone's watching understands what we're actually going into now, and that these crazy times in crypto come around very rarely. And for anyone that's been paying attention recently and is aware of what's going on, this is going to be a very exciting time, and right now we have only just seen the beginning of this. So until next video, happy trading. I'll see you guys next week. Peace.